Welcome to the Love Story Vlog channel, Queen's Story. Let's enjoy part 2 of the story, Bowing Low. Chapter 3. After father left, Xiao Qiao and Qiao Tu waited anxiously. About half an hour later, seeing their father return, Qiao Tu hurried to greet him and asked, "Father, were you able to persuade uncle?" Xiao Qiao noticed the furrow between her father's brows and felt her heart sink. As expected, Qiao Bin shook his head. "Your uncle is determined to seek peace, and said he won't change his mind." Qiao Tu wanted to rush outside again, but Qiao Bin sternly stopped him. "Stay where you are. This matter ends here. Talking more is useless." Qiao Tu stood frozen, his face filled with frustration and grievance. Qiao Bin paused for a moment, then spoke slowly. "It's not certain that the Wei family will accept this marriage proposal. Let's wait a little longer. If we're lucky, I'll reach out to Chen Liu again. By then, your uncle may not object." Though he said this, Xiao Qiao could tell her father held little real hope for this path. Qiao Tu, however, believed him, his face visibly lighting up with expectation. Xiao Bin glanced toward Xiao Qiao, hesitated slightly, then gently said, Man, take care of your sister and try to console her. This marriage may not go through, even if by chance it does. Wei Xiao is young and already a renowned hero, a ruler in his own domain, with fine looks. It would still be a good match." That night, Xiao Qiao once again shared a bed with Da Qiao. She could tell her sister was burdened with many thoughts. Though she forced herself to smile as usual, she avoided mentioning the marriage even once. Yet deep inside, she was suffering. Their father had asked Xiao Qiao to comfort her elder sister, but she keenly sensed that any words of reassurance would be powerless, utterly useless. The two sisters lay face to face under the dim moonlight. Suddenly, Da Qiao's voice softly broke the silence. Man, have you met Lord Liu yet?" Welcome to the Love Story Vlog channel, Queen's Story. Now, let's enjoy part 2 of the story, Bowing Low. Chapter 3. After father left, Xiao Qiao and Qiao Tu waited anxiously. About half an hour later, seeing their father return, Qiao Tu hurried to greet him and asked, "Father, were you able to persuade uncle?" Xiao Qiao noticed the furrow between her father's brows and felt her heart sink. As expected, Qiao Bin shook his head. "Your uncle is determined to seek peace, and said he won't change his mind." Qiao Tu wanted to rush outside again, but Qiao Bin sternly stopped him. "Stay where you are. This matter ends here. Talking more is useless." Qiao Tu stood frozen, his face filled with frustration and grievance. Qiao Bin paused for a moment, then spoke slowly. "It's not certain that the Wei family will accept this marriage proposal. Let's wait a little longer. If we're lucky, I'll reach out to Chen Liu again. By then, your uncle may not object." Though he said this, Xiao Qiao could tell her father held little real hope for this path. Qiao Tu, however, believed him, his face visibly lighting up with expectation. Xiao Bin glanced toward Xiao Qiao, hesitated slightly, then gently said, Man, take care of your sister and try to console her. This marriage may not go through, even if, by chance it does. Wei Xiao is young and already a renowned hero, a ruler in his own domain, with fine looks. It would still be a good match. That night, Xiao Qiao once again shared a bed with Da Qiao. She could tell her sister was burdened with many thoughts. Though she forced herself to smile as usual, she avoided mentioning the marriage even once. Yet deep inside, she was suffering. Their father had asked Xiao Qiao to comfort her elder sister, but she keenly sensed that any words of reassurance would be powerless, utterly useless. The two sisters lay face to face under the dim moonlight. Suddenly, Da Qiao's voice softly broke the silence. Man, have you met Lord Liu yet?" The Lord Liu she referred to was Xiao Qiao's current fiancé, Liu Yan, courtesy name Mo Qing, who would become the future Emperor Hu in her past life. At present, Liu Maoqing was just an unremarked eldest son from the Lengya state, a vassal domain of the Han imperial family. When he was 13, his stepmother falsely accused him of harassing her in front of his father in an attempt to promote her own son. The Prince of Lengya, who doted on the younger son, believed the slander, stripped Liu Yan of his status, and expelled him from Lengya. Because his maternal aunt was Xiao Chao's aunt, Liu Yan came to Yanzhou, seeking refuge and a place to stay. At that time, the Han imperial family had declined. In Luoyang, the capital, the 14-year-old emperor, raised to the throne 7 years ago by Chancellor Xingzun, was little more than a puppet. The real power lay entirely in Xingzun's hands. If even the emperor was like this, the imperial clansmen who ruled their own fiefs and commanded, their private armies paid even less heed to the central court. Many local militias had already rebelled. The Chao family, therefore, didn't fear the Lengya prince and agreed to shelter Liu Yan. He was strikingly handsome and well-educated, quickly earning Xiaobin's favor and attention. Eventually, 3 years ago, when Liu Yan turned 18, the Prince of Lengya, upon advice from his ministers, regretted his past mistake and summoned his son back. Not long after, he sent envoys to Yanzhou to propose a marriage between Liu Yan and Xiao Chao. Xiaobin had already sensed the mutual affection between the two youths. He asked Xiao Chao's opinion. Though she didn't speak, her shy silence showed she was willing. Thus, the engagement was set. They planned to wed the following year, when Xiao Chao turned 15. Half a year ago, Liu Yan had used Qiao Yue's birthday celebration as an excuse to visit Dong Prefecture. He had missed Xiao Chao for a long time and had hoped to see her and express his feelings. But for some reason, she kept avoiding him the entire time, never once agreeing to meet. In the end, he could only leave in frustration. The nightmare of her past life had left a deep, an indelible scar on Xiao Chao. Moreover, she was no longer the Xiao Chao who had grown up alongside Liu Yan. She had no feelings for him now and therefore had avoided him at the time. Hearing her sister mention him now, she was momentarily stunned. Over the past few days, whether awake or asleep, she had been consumed by Da Chao's engagement. She had nearly forgotten that she herself was also engaged, and the wedding was fast approaching, with the new year just around the corner. Man, once I'm married and gone to the distant north, I fear I won't be able to return in time for your wedding next year. From then on, we sisters may seldom see each other. I'm glad you and Lord Liu care for each other deeply. After marriage, I'm sure your life will be harmonious, and I won't have to worry. Xiao Qiao listened to her gentle voice. Her heart ached, and her eyes began to sting. Da Chao didn't notice her silence and continued to smile. Your embroidery was never great, and it's only gotten worse these past 2 years. I don't have anything valuable to give you, so earlier this year, I had Zhuaneng help me make a few things for your wedding. They're all kept at her place. Everything's almost done now. Just a pair of red shoes for your father-in-law. That pair took the most time, so we left it for last. I checked them, but the color coordination isn't great. Want to take a look and help me decide how to improve them? Dai Qiao shifted slightly, intending to get up, but Xiao Qiao gently held her down and, forcing her voice to stay steady, said, "Thank you, sister. No need. You're tired. Let's sleep." Da Hao replied, "I just worry we might not finish in time." She paused for a moment, then smiled again. "Tomorrow's fine. Let's sleep now." The room quieted down again. It seemed Da Qiao was sleeping soundly. She lay still, her breathing soft and steady. At first, Xiao Qiao couldn't sleep, but by midnight, drowsiness overcame her. Just as she was drifting off, she vaguely sensed Da Qiao moving. Her sister quietly slipped out of bed without lighting a lamp, dressing by the moonlight that spilled through the window. Then she gently opened the door and left, carefully passing through the outer room where the maid slept soundly. At first, Xiao Qiao assumed she had gone to relieve herself and said nothing. But then she felt something was off. As soon as Da Chao stepped outside, a chilling thought struck her. Memories of a similar scene in her past life flashed through her mind. She instantly climbed out of bed, threw on some clothes, and silently followed. The moon was full tonight, casting a silver glow over the courtyard. As she stepped past the threshold, she caught a glimpse of Da Chao's silhouette quickly disappearing toward the garden. Behind the Chao family's garden was a densely wooded area. A young man was already waiting there. He was strikingly handsome, with a body lean and tense, like a panther ready to pounce, each muscle brimming with a restrained power. The rear wall of the garden stood twice a man's height, but that posed no obstacle for him. He stood calmly in a shadowed corner, where the moonlight did not reach. His back merged with the boundless night. He had waited there a long time. His thin, patched robe was soaked with the cold dew of winter, but he didn't feel the chill at all. He didn't even know if the woman he loved, who was now imprisoned in a noble and untouchable military household, would actually come. But still, he waited. In his heart, a tiny flame burned. Though faint and fragile, easily extinguished, it was enough to warm him through the icy night. He had been born with one eye green as jade. At night, it glowed. His parents, terrified by what they thought was a curse, abandoned him in a pigsty near the Chao family stables. Snow covered the ground, yet he did not freeze to death. A sow pulled him into the pen and nursed him. He lived. When the stable hands found him, they thought it strange and reported it to the Chao family head. Thus, he was allowed to stay, raised as a stable slave. He had no surname, no name. Because he had been left in the pigsty, they called him BG. Xiao Chao followed to the back garden. From a distance, she saw her cousin embrace the young man as he stepped from the shadows. Then she pushed him away and seemed to say something. In that moment, everything became clear to Xiao Chao. In her past life, not long after Da Chao's wedding, the stable boy Biju disappeared. The Chao household had hundreds of servants. The disappearance of one lowly slave drew no real attention. A search was made, but when it yielded nothing, they gave up. Years later, a great drought struck Xiongnan, plunging the region into chaos. Refugees fled, and many turned into bandits. Among them, one rose to infamy, a one-eyed, green-eyed outlaw who united scattered factions and eventually seized control of Huaiyin, declaring himself commander. At that time, Han Tun, stationed in Luoyang, dispatched troops to eliminate them, but he was defeated. With tensions rising in his conflict with Wei Xiao, he could do nothing to resolve the matter, and was forced to let them carve out their territory and rule on their own. Later, when Wei Xiao defeated Han Tun and seized Luoyang, claiming dominance over the Central Plains, the green-eyed bandit leader, who had always acted alone, suddenly chose to ally with the loyal ministers of the Han imperial family and helped establish Liu Yan as emperor. At that time, Liu Yan was in dire need of troops and generals, and overjoyed by this turn of events, he conferred upon him the title of King of Huaiyin. From then on, he and Wei Xiao openly became enemies. It could be said that if the King of Huaiyin hadn't descended from the heavens to interfere and strike back, Wei Xiao would have conquered the realm 2 years earlier. The final fate of the King of Huaiyin was rather legendary. After the decisive battle that determined the fate of the empire, the King of Huaiyin and the rebel forces vanished. Some said he had died. Others claimed he had disfigured himself and escaped. Wei Xiao hated this man to the bone, offering a reward of 1,000 taels of gold and the title of Marquis of 10,000 households, ordering that, alive, the man must be found and dead. His body must be recovered. But from start to finish, there was no trace of him. Half a year later, news finally reached Wei Xiao that someone had seemingly seen a person resembling the King of Huaiyin appear near the ancestral tombs of the Wei family. Wei Xiao rushed there, but found nothing unusual. It wasn't until later that they discovered the tomb had been broken into. The burial chamber was empty, and the coffin had disappeared without a trace. Wei Xiao deposed Empress Chao, and after his death, he was not permitted to be buried in the ancestral tombs of the Wei family. Instead, he was interred in a desolate, barren place. Chapter 4. The Woodcutter's Song. Under the moonlight, Da Chao broke free from the man's tight grip, lowered her head and turned to leave. But she had only taken 2 steps when he pulled her into his arms again. She paused just for a moment, then struggled away once more. This time he did not follow. He simply stood there, watching her back fade into the distance, until finally he slowly sank to his knees. Both knees hit the ground. He knelt in the dark, unmoving. Xiao Cao's heart pounded as she hurried back. The maid was still asleep. Xiao Cao passed by her into the room, climbed into bed, lifted the quilt and lay down. As soon as she closed her eyes, the door creaked softly. Footsteps tiptoed in. Da Chao had returned. Perhaps she was distracted, and when passing by the maid's bed, her bare foot accidentally bumped a small stool near the head of the bed. It fell with a soft clatter. The maid was startled awake. In her groggy state, she saw a figure beside her. Alarmed, she was about to scream, but then recognized Da Chao. "It's nothing. Go back to sleep. I just went to relieve myself," Da Chao said, her tone calm as if nothing had happened. The maid suspected nothing and busied herself picking the stool back up. A while later, Xiao Cao heard the sound of clothes rustling outside the bed curtains. Then the curtain lifted. Dai Cao gently climbed into bed, turned her back toward Xiao Cao, and slowly lay down. At first, she didn't move, as if she had fallen asleep the moment she lay down. But soon after, her shoulders began to tremble, and quiet sobs reached Xiao Cao's ears. Xiao Cao's mind churned with uncertainty. She was hesitating about what to do when Da Cao's sobs grew louder, though she quickly stifled them, probably afraid to wake her sister. But her shoulders only trembled harder. Slowly, Xiao Cao opened her eyes. She turned toward her older cousin, who lay curled up, trembling, and with a determined breath, she scooted closer and gently wrapped an arm around Da Chao's soft waist, whispering, "Sister, don't cry. I followed you out just now. I saw everything." Da Chao stiffened. She quickly turned over and said in a panic, Man, don't misunderstand. Xiao Cao placed a hand over her mouth, signaling her to stop. Then she got out of bed, tiptoed to the door, and listened for a moment. Hearing only the maid's soft snoring, she returned, lit the oil lamp, and turned back to look at the bed. Da Cao was already sitting up. Her long black hair spilled over her shoulders. Her hands clutched the edge of the quilt tensely. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. The trails of tears were still visible on her cheeks. She looked at Xiao Cao, dazed. A beauty so heart-wrenching it could make one ache. When she saw Xiao Cao place the oil lamp on the bedstand, she seemed to awaken. She hurriedly grasped her sister's hand and whispered anxiously, Man, I really didn't mean anything else. It's just that it was getting so late, and it was so cold outside. I didn't want him to wait there all night. What if someone saw? It could cause trouble. That's why I told him to leave." Her hands were ice cold and trembling, like her voice. Xiao Cao held her sister's hands and looked into her eyes. "Sister, I saw him. But don't be afraid, I won't tell anyone. You like him, don't you?" Da Cao's pale cheeks flushed slightly. After a moment's hesitation, she looked into Xiao Cao's eyes and gave a small nod. She whispered, "His status is low, but he's truly a good man. Really good. That man grew up in the Qiu family stables. He was quiet and withdrawn, like a mute, but his body was strong and well built, with remarkable strength and speed. More importantly, he had a gift with horses. Even the fiercest steeds would become calm and obedient before him. Because of this, the steward made him a horse slave for the masters, and so he began appearing within Da Chao's view. But for a long time, several years, Da Chao's only impression of the strong and handsome young slave with heterochromatic eyes was this. Every time he knelt to form a step for her to get in and out of the carriage, it was much steadier stepping on him than any other servant. His back was like a rock, firm and unyielding. Da Chao remembered his name, clearly starting 3 years ago, when her betrothed died. Although they had never met, she grieved deeply. During that time, she often accompanied her mother outside the city to the Temple of Long Life to offer incense. One day on the return journey, the carriage horse was startled, throwing the driver off. The carriage careened out of control. She and her mother were trapped inside, on the verge of being overturned. In the chaos, a sharp whistle pierced the air. A figure sprinted toward them. The horse gradually slowed and eventually came to a stop by the roadside. Still in shock, she stared out the window, pale-faced, and saw the man who had rushed over now standing at the horse's head, holding the snorting steed, one hand stroking its mane, the other whispering something soothing into its ear. Words she could not understand. The horse finally calmed down completely. Then the attendants arrived. The steward, furious, raised a whip to strike the horse. The black leather whip was lifted high, but caught mid-air, gripped by the horse slave's hand. The whip wound tightly around his muscular forearm, veins bulging like green cords, as thick as her pinky. The steward grew even angrier. As they struggled, the horse slave turned his head toward Da Chao, eyes silently pleading. She still remembered that day clearly. The sky was blue, the breeze warm and gentle. In the sunlight, his eyes were the color of glass, a translucent green-blue. From that day forward, she remembered his name, Betray. Da Chao hated how clumsy she was with words. She didn't know how to make her sister believe that Biju was a good man. Truly good, at least in her eyes. Her cheeks reddened. She opened her eyes wide, nervously watching Xiao Qiao. But Xiao Qiao smiled softly and said gently, "Sister, you don't have to say it. I know he's good. Just now, when he asked you to meet him, he wanted to take you away, didn't he?" Da Chao was stunned. At first, she shook her head. After a moment, she slowly lowered her gaze. When she looked up again, her expression had calmed significantly. She said slowly, Man, I won't go with him. I already made it clear to him just now. Don't worry, I won't see him again." "Sister, let him take you away. Don't stay here," Xiao Qiao said. Even if Da Chao were married off, it would only bring the Q family some temporary peace. In the end, their household would still be scattered. Instead of yielding, why not follow father's plan and fight to the end? Perhaps that might lead to a way out. And if Da Chao ran away, uncle would have no other choice. He would have to listen to father's advice. Da Chao was stunned, silently looking at Xiao Qiao. After a while, she smiled, a bitter smile, and said, "Silly girl, are you afraid I'm no longer pure? That if I marry someone it'll be discovered? Don't worry, nothing ever happened between me and him." "That's not why," Xiao Qiao replied. She leaned close to her sister's ear and whispered, "Sister, you must go. The Wei family will definitely agree to this marriage. If you don't leave, you'll be forced to marry him. And if you marry under such circumstances, your life will be over. Besides, isn't there someone you truly love?" Da Chao was shaken for a moment before she slowly shook her head. "That's all the more reason I can't leave. If the Wei family agrees to the engagement and I'm gone, what will our family do then? Good or bad, I am still a daughter of the Chao family. I am willing to face whatever comes." Xiao Qiao paused, letting out a silent sigh. Then she looked up and said, "Sister, what if I told you I want to marry Wei Xiao in your place? Would you support me?" Once again, Da Chao was stunned. staring at Xiao Qiao in disbelief. After a while, she asked in confusion, Man, why would you suddenly say such a thing? Aren't you and young Lord Liu perfectly suited for each other? Isn't your wedding set for next year? And that Marquis Wei, I've heard She hesitated, not daring to voice the rumors. Cruel by nature, violent and heartless. Yes, it's true Wei Xiao is not a good man, Xiao Qiao said calmly in her place. But sister, there are generally two types of women in marriage. The first type is like you, growing old with the one you love, living simply and peacefully. But I'm not like you. What I want isn't a husband who helps me draw my eyebrows before a mirror, but one who can give me power and status. I used to like young Lord Liu, but now I realize he's not the one I truly want. He's too gentle, too soft, even if he inherits the throne of Lang. What does a princess consort of a declining kingdom amount to nowadays? But Wei Xiao is different. I believe he's destined for greatness. If our families become connected through marriage, how could I pass up such an opportunity? Da Qiao looked at her younger sister with suspicion. It was as if she had suddenly turned into a different person. She stared blankly for a while before finally asking, Man, do you truly think this way? You're not just doing this for me. Sister, I want you to help me now. Please, I need your blessing. Xiao Qiao's voice was firm. Da Qiao was silent for a long time. At last, hope flickered in her eyes. Though she still couldn't quite believe it, she looked hesitantly at Xiao Qiao and whispered, Can I really do this? Can I really leave everything behind? Will father blame me? Will mother be heartbroken? Sister! Xiao Qiao held her hand tightly. Once you're gone, I'll take care of uncle and auntie for you. In time, they'll forgive you. Think about it. If you get married like this, what will he do? Da Qiao's face turned pale, but a blush spread across her cheeks. She closed her eyes and murmured, Let me think it over. Sister, I won't pressure you. Take your time to decide. Xiao Qiao helped her lie down, tucked the blanket around her, blew out the lamp, and lay down beside her. After a while, she said softly, Sister, remember how I used to have nightmares? I never told you, but they were always about you and that slave. In the dreams, you married someone else and died young, leaving behind a lonely grave. He lived on in solitude. Do you know what he did in the end? He found your grave, unearthed you from the earth, and took you away with him. Don't say any more, Da Qiao whispered. Tears silently streamed down her cheeks, soaking into the pillow. 3 days later, Madame Ding took both Qiao sisters to Changsheng Temple to burn incense once again. After offering their prayers, she grew tired from the long journey and, as usual, went to rest in a side room. But this time, her daughter Da Qiao was unlike her usual self. She looked weighed down, hesitant, clinging tightly to her mother's hand, and even followed her to sit by her side after she lay down. Madame Ding thought little of it, assuming her daughter was just anxious about the marriage with the Wei family. She gently patted her daughter's hand and smiled. My dear girl, just now I prayed to the Buddha. I said that if only you can find a good match, I would gladly trade some of my years for your happiness. Surely the Buddha will answer my prayers. Don't worry too much. Da Qiao fought the sorrow of farewell, clutching her mother's hand tightly, unwilling to let go for a long time. Behind Changsheng Temple was a quiet little path, formed by the daily steps of local woodsmen climbing the mountain for firewood. Changing into plain garments, Da Qiao walked side by side with the young man down the secluded trail. After they had walked for a while and were nearly hidden by the trees, the man with one green eye suddenly stopped, turned back, and quickly strode toward Xiao Qiao. He dropped to his knees before her and bowed deeply. For giving me a second life. If you ever need anything, I will offer you all that I am. He enunciated each word clearly. It was the first time Xiao Qiao had ever heard him speak. His voice was pure and deep, filled with quiet strength. Impossible not to trust. After the bow, he stood and returned to Da Chao's side. Their figures quickly disappeared into the forest. In dreams of Hua Shu, once I wandered, the world's finest tower stands unmatched. As Xiaoqiao slowly walked back toward Chengsheng Temple, she faintly heard a woodsman singing from deep within the forest. The melody rose and fell, distant and serene, carrying with it the mystique of a hidden world, untouched by time.